Hello, everyone. Yes, it has been a while since I've shown my face, hasn't it? With very good reason, as you can see. But now I've returned because I feel it's important people know this story. It's practically my backstory for why I am who I am and why I've done the regrettable things I've done. Now, if you knew me on LiveJournal way back when, you might know this story. If you were in my LiveJournal group for Anthony Ainley, you may have seen me write about it and post the original scans of the letters. Well, those original scans I lost some time during a switch from computer to computer, and the ones I did recover from the LiveJournal postings have photo bucket watermarks on them. But it is time to finally tell the tale to the whole world. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. This is the story of the Anthony Ainley letters. But first, since we are going back in time, I did not have this wonderful shirt in the early 2000s. So, let's do a quick change. And hey! Isn't the world of modern technology wonderful? Suppose I should start with how I got into Doctor Who in the first place. Well, the thing about me is, my special interests are often spawned from other special interests. In this case, it came from actually two pre-existing special interests, Monty Python and Rocky Horror. So this would have been about 2000. I had Rocky Horror on DVD, and I was absolutely in love with Patricia Quinn. Yes, this story starts out as another love story. She was my bisexual awakening, and I was so into her I had to see all the other stuff she was in. So, I was on the lookout for anything I can find that was on video, and the Doctor Who story Dragonfire was definitely there. I didn't know much about Doctor Who, except it was about a guy traveling in a phone booth, and it's for nerds. My curiosity in more ways than one trampled my self-consciousness, and so I rented Dragonfire. And I found a show that was funny, captivating, smart, and extremely shippable. Though I learned the hard way I'm not supposed to do that, but that's not important right now. But I wasn't completely sold on the whole show. And that's where Monty Python comes in. Because John Cleese was in City of Death, a story with the fourth and most recognizable Doctor then, Tom Baker. So I went for it on VHS again, and wow, there could not have been a better choice. I had to see more of this show. So, with help from the local video store and my brother's collection of recordings off KTEH, now KQEH, I began trying to catch up with Doctor Who. Mainly the doctors I'd already seen, Sylvester McCoy and Tom Baker, but of course, I knew I needed to expand my horizons. So on one tape in particular, I was pleased to come upon The Five Doctors. In its fake four-part version with the fake cliffhangers, but nevertheless, that is when I first saw him, the Master, my master, the man who would change the course of my life forever. But of course, I did not start writing letters right away, even though in hindsight I wish I did. Heck, I wasn't even yet in a mad scramble to find the rest of his stories, let alone his other roles. But the seed was planted, and as I did get to seeing more of his other stories over the course of the next year, that's around the time I really wanted to see more of this sexy Anthony Ainley man. And in the course of doing so, I found out Doctor Who was not in fact the first time I laid eyes on him. It was actually in the film The Land That Time Forgot, which I watched because I was a Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan, and I was doing my own little movie riffs at home. Yes, 17 years before the revival came and did that movie. No, I haven't seen theirs. I'm sure their jokes are much funnier than mine. But even so, when Dietz came on screen, all I could think was, I am cool, no? Just looking at this sexy, sexy German. Not a Nazi, it's World War One. What else could I call him but cool? But anyway, by the time 2002 rolled around, I had seen most of his Doctor Who stories and whatever else of his creds I could find at my local video stores. May they all rest in peace. And I was definitely crushing hard, to put it delicately. And I had heard stories from other fans about how nice and friendly he was at conventions and responding to fan letters, but I didn't get the guts to write him until late that year, age 15. Can't remember exactly when I wrote that first letter, but I do have the date the first reply was written. Okay, before we go on, just so you know, I went through a lot of trouble to get these things scanned. I just barely got a new scanner in time, and when I did get it, I didn't know how to do it right fast enough, so I had to use the house scanner anyway. And then I had to get the letters out of the safety box. I had put them in, to protect from fire, but we couldn't find the key, so it had to be broken into. And then I found out that despite being supposedly a tight locked safety box, somehow moisture had gotten in there and many of the papers in there were damaged, including the letters, especially the first one. Because, of course, that's what would happen. My most prized letters in all of my existence ruined from their pristine state. So, what I've had to do with some of these is Frankenstein them together with the old scans I put up on LiveJournal with the watermarks on them, which are why I went through the struggle of trying to make new scans in the first place. Also, halfway through our correspondence, his black pen suddenly ran out of ink, so for the rest, he used a blue pen, which did not scan at all on my old scanner, and now the ink has really faded on those, but the new one managed to pick a semblance of them up. But I had to use Photoshop to try and make them halfway legible. Some of them still aren't, but thank God I transcribed them on LiveJournal. So let's hear it for abandoned social media sites. So, I can't really remember what I exactly wrote in most of my letters to him, so I'm going to try to remember based on his replies and again, my LiveJournal post from 2007, which is a lot closer to 2003 than today, so my brain was still not yet so crowded. But I do remember for the first one, I wrote how I was nervous and blushing, and I thought he was handsome. Not sure if I said sexy. And I asked if he got on well with Kate O'Mara and Mark of the Rani, since I was obsessed with that story because I was shipping the Master and the Rani like FedEx. Even though I found out later I was not supposed to, even more so than I was generally not supposed to be shipping classic Doctor Who characters. Keep this in mind because it's going to keep coming back. But I also asked if he got on with the other actors and said Eric Roberts was a terrible replacement for him. On November 8th, 2002, he wrote his reply. Oh god, I'm going to be so bad at this. Dear AGZ, I want to thank you for your charming letter. It almost made me blush. To answer your questions, yes, I got on very well with Kate O'Mara, even though she gave me an unpleasant kick. And yes, I got on well with all the actors. The only person I did not care for was our producer, who, it has been confirmed by U.S. con men, would abuse his powers and make big bucks by getting his actors ripped off at U.S. cons. He arranged for me to be ripped off 5 times. I refused to go the 5th time. Can you imagine a Star Trek producer behaving like that? It's unthinkable. Because you wrote me such a kind letter, I'm sending you a signed trading card. For I am your humble servant, the Master. Please accept no substitutes. Eric who? Yours mundanely, Anthony Ainley. As you can imagine, I was thrilled to read it. enthralled even, enamored. I was over the moon and I didn't come down for the rest of our time. It is a bit gratuitous of him to launch into a tirade about the recently deceased J&T, but then again, I did not know this full story of just how terrible that man was. And indeed, in my naivete, I spent far too many letters trying to coax him to say something nice about J&T, one of the many regrets I will be mentioning in this video. Also notice how he used the letterhead with his actual address and telephone number. He actually used his real address publicly in a letter to DWM that is Doctor Who magazine from around the time he was doing the Cinderella pantomime. So I'm okay keeping that in, but I censored the telephone number, and I don't want to see any of you bothering whoever lives there now. And here is the signed trading card. Sorry the scan is askew, but I was kinda in a hurry to get this all done. Let me tell you, those little X kisses meant everything to me. Also, the back of this card has an amusing mistake. So, I could not just leave things there. I had to keep going. Because I was in love. So, since it was the holiday season, my next letter was a holiday card. As in generic holiday card, as living in America, I've learned to consider people who don't celebrate Christmas. But according to his reply, he very much did. He sent his reply on a postcard with this very good promo shot from Survival, with 5 kiss X's. Thank you so much for your kind Christmas card. It is my first. But did you get the trading card I sent? You do not mention it. Yours puzzled of Gallifrey. He said his first Christmas card, but I assume he meant the first of the year. And on the back, he asks which doctor I like and praises the Anaheim Angels, who won the 2002 World Series, probably because they share initials with him. I had to tell him in the next letter I don't really care about baseball. Though in hindsight, I should have said that if I were to support a team, it would be the Oakland A's, since they were closer to me and had an A. And now they're moving to Las Vegas. Can't have anything anymore. So, in my reply, I acknowledged the trading card and apparently wrote a very long letter giving my thoughts on all the doctors up until that point, which I cannot remember. But that doesn't matter. What matters is this. Yes, that's right. He sent me a full-on big Christmas card, and I'll get to why that's especially meaningful in a minute, but let's look inside, or as much inside as the scanner could get. Thank you very much for your long letter. I think you are a very good writer. I enjoyed what you had to say about those meddlesome doctors. Yes, I still play cricket, and I'm enclosing the club's batting averages. Season's greetings, AGZ and family, and love from Anthony Ainley. And yes, he did send the London Theatre's Cricket Club batting averages. Now, this Christmas card really touched my heart when I got it, for obvious reasons. But it's apparently even more special than I thought, because in the biography of Anthony Ainley, that is Anthony Ainley, Man Behind the Master by Karen Louise Hollis. Amazing read, by the way. If you want to know more about him, you should get this. There is a recollection by Matthew Waterhouse that he would reuse Christmas cards to send to other people. So the fact that I got a fresh one shows that I was clearly someone special. I mean, maybe all fans got fresh ones and it was just co-stars and such who got the reused ones, but it still really is special. Also, if you miss it, the card is from the Actors Benevolent Fund, which is also very significant if you've read the biography. And on the back, it shows the title, the artwork, and the artist, though I can't seem to find much more about either on Google. Still, it was a really special Christmas to remember.